So hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is a continuation of What If Naruto Became the Great Red Dragon in High School DxD. If you guys are new on my channel, then destroy the like and subscribe button, it is totally free of cost. And check my playlist. Let's start the story where we left off. It's been a week since Naruto and others came back to Kyoto from Okinawa after enjoying the summer there. Thinking back, Naruto couldn't think his life was going to turn out this way. First, he never thought he met someone like Office, not to mention living together. Then a visit to his grandparents for the first time. Oh boy. Who would guess that his grandparents were involved in the supernatural world? Maybe his father and Drake, they are one of the oldest beings if not the oldest. But they didn't tell him about them until he asked about them. He thought they were the other reason his father chose the Uzumaki. Currently he was training in a pocket dimension without the care to damage it. After all, his grandfather already told him that it reset to its initial condition after every 30 sec. To which he glad, after all the damage he and girls made every day was enough to level 3 fractions combined. He didn't know what he'll do if he didn't have access to it, maybe ask his father, but it's not the problem here since he already got it. Naruto wasn't the only one who was thinking about the past. Sitting under the tree at Uzumaki Garden, a blonde hair with 3 whisker marks on her cheek was doing the same thing. She never thought she'd ever get to know what it is like to have a family. Not to mention how it is to have parents. How does it feel when someone cares about you? But it all changes when she joined Uzumaki. It wasn't like she disliked Yusaka, no. She would never do that after all, Yusaka gave her 1,000 times better lifestyle, not to mention she was the one who introduced her to Naruto. And as for lifestyle Uzumaki gave her, she couldn't compare it to anything. When she saw how strong Naruto and her other family was, she started to train seriously. She trained before but not that passionate that not it was now. Her mood changed when she remembered her training time with Kunu. And how she always helped her out. Flashback begin. I was able to conjure up the flames, but after a few seconds they disappear. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong despite my attempts, said Naruki. I guess, I know what you're doing wrong. But don't worry, I'll help you. I faced same problem before when I was trying to control my foxfire. Kunu said, getting a small blush from her fellow Kitsune Yaokai. Anything else? Yup, I have all kinds of crazy ideas for attack, however they all involve my tails. Unfortunately I'm not really good when it comes to controlling them, as you might know. I can somewhat move them around, but I can't really grab anything with them. It's not funny. She whined upon hearing Kunu laugh. Flashback ends. She also remembered her conversation with Yusaka after joining Naruto's peerage. Needless to say, the changes in her body left Yusaka in awestruck. Flashback begin. Yusaka-sama, there was something I need to talk about, said Naruki in calm voice, but Yusaka could easily how disturbed she was inside. What is it? Did Naruto-kun said something? Has he treating you well? Questioned Yusaka. He and his. Our family treating me well, it's about my yoki and tails. Replied Naruki, trying not to delay anymore. She released her yoki. A black yoki aura with a red outline surrounded her, with 2 wolf ears and 10 ethereal white tails with red outline behind her. Leaving Yusaka in her utter disbelief. Compassing herself, Yusaka could only ask one thing, and that was something she asked Ho how. Explain. After all, even Yusaka knew the legend behind the 10 tails. But it was myth before, well, until now. There once existed a race of being far greater than even the Kyuubi Kitsune. So terrifying, so strong, that the Yakai couldn't rank them as even Satan class, a title so rare that only Yusaka was capable to reach. It was also said there had the potential to reach a level of dragon god. That's why it was called the Juubi, god of Yakai. It happened after I joined Naruto-kun's peerage. He told me once that when I joined his peerage my yoki and other power skyrocket and easily par with an ultimate class. But even he didn't knew it'll give me an additional tail. According to him. It was mutation, and before you asked how, I don't know, even he didn't. Replied Naruki truthfully. Yusaka stared at her for a moment, making Naruki nervous. When she realized she was making her nervous, she signed and replied with small smile, congratulations Naruki-chan, I take it you knew about the legend behind the 10 tails. Asked Yusaka. Hi. Yusaka-sama, Naruto-kun gave me books that have details about 10 tails. Replied Narumi. E-books on 10 tails and Naruto have them. Muttered Yusaka. But Naruki heard it crystal clear and replied hi. Yusaka raised her eyebrows as she didn't expect her to hear her muttering, but replied nonetheless to continue the conversation as she have to warn her to telling anyone about her new growth, as she knew lots of power-hungry person Yakai will want her under their thumb. I see. Anyway Naruki-chan, you can't tell anyone about your new growth, UK and Yusaka started, but Naruki cut her sentence in middle and continue. I know Yusaka-sama, Naruto-kun told me about not to tell anyone, and besides Uzumaki, you and Amaterasu-sama were the only 2 who now knew about it. Replied Naruki. Amaterasu-sama knew. asked Yusaka as another bomb dropped in front of her. She had enough for an entire decade now. "Hi, Naruto-kun," told her, replied Naruki with a tone like she was reading today's newspaper. "And?" asked Yusaka as she wanted to know more about it. Oh boy. She was going to have a long chat with Naruto now. When she asked Naruto to add Naruki and Satsuki in his peerage, she never thought this was going to happen. This event could change the power balance inside Yokai faction, but she also knew, as Naruki is now part of Uzumaki family, they'll protect her even she will do. And if Amaterasu knew and didn't do anything to harm Naruki, then it concluded that Shinto God stands with Uzumaki. And as for power balance, it was already changed as Naruto entered in supernatural world. It was another matter that 3 fractions didn't know about his existence, but soon they will. Having a dragon peerage was another matter. No one in right mind ever thought about dragon peerage. The office and Tiamat were the another story which she didn't even want to talk about. Both of them have enough power to crush any faction anytime. Yusaka sighed heavily, she never dreamed about facing this kind of situation before. Flashback ends. She forgot to mention about her wings as her full concentration on her tails. Her 2 golden wings which she got after the rituals, that was a story of another time. She also have to train the dragon part of her, as she didn't want to only depends upon her Kitsune Kofubi part now. Her thought was interrupted as she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned around to find Satsuki was standing with a worried expressions. "Naruki-chan, Naruki-chan." "Satsuki-chan?" asked Naruki as she titled her head with her right hand. "Are you okay, Naruki-chan? I have been calling you from last 5 minutes." Replied Satsuki, who still had a worried tone. "The Menasai Satsuki-chan, if I worried you I was just thinking," said Naruki with a half smile. "Thinking? Thinking about what exactly, Naruki-chan?" demanded Satsuki-chan. "Joining Naruto-kun peerage, joining Uzumaki," replied Naruki. A soft smile spread on Satsuki's face and she took a seat next to Naruto and said, "Do you regret it?" Naruki stared at her with utter disbelief and replied instantly, "WWH, what are you talking about, Satsuki? Joining Naruto peerage was the best thing I ever did. No. I didn't regret it at joining Uzumaki, fill me with joy as I never knew how was it have a family, a caring family. Naruto parents, I mean Otu-san, and Ka-chan always spoils me us." Satsuki giggled and spoke, "That was I wanted to hear, Naruki-chan. Yes, Naruto parents, I mean now ours. Never let us feel like we didn't have any parents. Yes, joining Uzumaki was a good choice. Not to mention you have a crush on Naruto." Satsuki never get chance to finish her sentence as Naruki covered her mouth with her hand, who has very red crimson face that can rival the color of Naruto's hair. "What are you talking about, you baka?" cried Naruki in embracement. "Oh. Don't you know? A blonde-haired girl with 3 whisker marks on her cheek has a massive crush on Naruto-kun," replied Satsuki playfully. Hearing that, Naruki's entire body went completely red. But somehow she composed herself and replied in a very teasing tone, "Says who?" "The same girl who was sleeping in his arms this morning, interlocking her legs with his, not to mention her head on his chest." Now this time Satsuki went completely red, but she replied nonetheless, "I don't know what you are talking about," stuttered Satsuki. Naruki gasped and covered her mouth and replied in mock surprised tone, "Did you just stutter?" Satsuki realized what she did and replied with everything to cover it, "I do no such this." Naruki giggled and spoke, "Nah. You just stuttered." "Stuttered? Who's stuttering?" A voice come from behind which caught both of them off guard. Both of them turned around to find Valen was standing there with her arms crossed. "Vali, what are you doing here?" asked Satsuki as she tried her best to change the subject. "I just finished my training session. So I decided to check on you. What about you?" replied Vali and seated beside Naruki. Making Naruki in middle of Valen and Satsuki. "We were just talking about Naruto-kun peerage," replied Naruki, and a smile spread of her face as she saw Vali sitting beside her. "I see," muttered Vali. "How do you feel, Vali-chan?" questioned Satsuki. "About?" asked Vali. "Joining Uzumaki family. Of course," replied Naruki. Now this time a warm smile spread on Valen's face. "The best thing ever happened to me," replied Valen with giving a second thought. And she continued, "I didn't know how was it like to have a family. Sure, I did have a mother. But..." Before she continued, Naruki embraced her in a warm hug. "Shhh, it's okay. Vali-chan and Gamenasai for bringing such matter," whispered Naruki. "Don't worry, Naruki-chan, it's okay. If it wasn't for Naruto-kun I did never know how was it like to have family. How was it feel to wanted?" "So? You have too?" asked Satsuki in very low tone which they heard it clearly. "What was it, Satsuki-chan?" asked Vali with a very confused expressions. Naruki giggled and replied, "She meant you also like Naruto-kun." Valen and Satsuki both went completely red at what Naruki just said. Vali looked at Satsuki and asked, "You too?" "Who's not?" replied a very red face Satsuki, and she turned her red face in another direction. She never felt this amount of embracement in her life before. But before anyone could continue the conversation, a voice called them. "Hello girls." Bee squealed the trip. And turned around to find a very amused Luna was standing there. "Luna-sama," said Naruki. "Luna-sama. Just how many times I told you all to call me just Bachan," replied Luna while making a fake annoyed face. "Blue Bachan, what are you doing here?" asked Satsuki. She started to with Luna, but before she continued she caught Luna-sama expressions changing and decided to calling Bachan was a good choice. "Well. I just came to tell you. It's dinner time. Someone saw where is Naruto-kun," replied Luna. "Oh. Thank you Lu Bachan. And Naruto-kun was at his pocket dimension. Don't worry, I'll get him," told Valen. "Still training, I swear if he'll continue the way he is going, he'll surpass me and his Jiji before entering his high school," complained Luna. Little did she know. The trio just giggled. "I'll see you both at dinner table Naruki-chan," Satsuki-chan said Valen and went to call Naruto. Both of them nodded, ran to the living hall, leaving Luna by herself. Who just smiled and remembered the time before came to Kyoto. How the mansion was completely silent all time. That soon changed as Naruto came. Truly her grandson is an enigma. Thinking about past. A make voice caught her off guard, but she smiled as she instantly identified the voice and replied without turning around, "Yeah. Sometimes I thought if Naruto wasn't come to Kyoto." Max signed and replied, "Then how was it going to complete our house?" "Nah. True," replied Luna in low tone. But Max wasn't done and continued, "Besides he have to come here. After all, how was he add more cute girls in his harem?" "Bang. What was that for?" complained Max while rubbing his head with his left hand where Lun just gutted. Luna left eye twitched as she spoke, "Don't you dare to corrupt my grandson." But. He already started Max, but Luna interrupted and continued, "We'll see when it comes to his age. Right now he's just my cute little grandson." Max signed, knowing full well that hell will freeze before he won an argument with Luna. The best option was dropped it. Underworld. Meanwhile in Underworld. Sona Citri is used to very strict person, she still is, but only to others. She is no longer has her strict personality towards her family, clan members and friends, much to her One-sama delight and her parents' disbelief. She was currently playing chess. But she didn't have any opponents. Her chessboard now has its own mind, much to Sona happiness. She remembered how she get this chessboard and she was going to treasure this chessboard after all, it's a gift from her Naruto-kun. Flashback begin. Sona, Naruto and others were sitting under a tree at the garden while discussing about today's adventures. "Hey So-chan," called Naruto. "What is it?" "Naruto-kun?" asked Sona while looking at him. "Well, tomorrow we'll leave," and Naruto started, but Sona cut him off in middle and asked, "And? You think I'll completely goes out of contact? Then you sadly mistaken, mister," replied Sona in very threatening tone. "It isn't like that, you see. I want to give you this as a memento for this summer," said Naruto while giving her a box, which Sona took it from him and opened it and found a very beautiful chess set. Naruto continued and said, "I know you like chess, but you won't always have someone to play with it. So it is for you see. So-chan, this chess set has its own mind, so you don't need any player to play with it. I hope you like it, hahaha," said Naruto while laughed nervously at last. Sona stared at the set, then evolved Naruto in a very tight embrace and whispered arigato in his ear. Naruto didn't hear her whispered as he was blushing heavily when Sona evolved him in a tight embrace. Flashback ends. Her cheek went completely red as she reminded the event. But that was nothing compared to the time when her One-sama caught her sleeping together with her Naruto-kun. Flashback begin. Naruto was about to switch off the lights of his room, others were already asleep. But a knock on his door make him stop. "Come," said Naruto. The door opened revealing a very cute side of Sona with her glass, in her pajamas, holding a cute bunny. Seeing her in this, Naruto couldn't help but blushed. She was blushing too. "So-chan. See, can I sleep here?" asked Sona shyly. "Bed on the bed, So-chan." Sona didn't say any more word, just climbed to the bed and snuggled close to Naruto. She didn't know when sleep claimed her. Morning. When Seraphil awoke, she did the first thing she always do at morning, checking her little sister. When Seraphil entered her baby sister room and didn't find her at her room. She panicked and going to call entire household, but missing her baby sister's bunny caught her eyes. Then remembers the way her baby sister was acting when Naruto-chan was going to his room. A devilish smile spread across her face. She went back to her room to grab her camera. Oh boy. Poor Sona. Standing in front of door of Naruto's room, Seraphil holding a camera. Sunlight hit the room of Naruto. More importantly Sona. As she started to awake from the disturbing sunlight. "Baka sunlight," muttered Sona as she completely awoke now. First thing she saw after being forcefully awakened by sunlight was peaceful sleeping face Naruto. Now she reminded her position and found herself in Naruto's tight embrace. Naruto's arms possessively holding her. She was no good. Her legs were interlocked with Naruto's. She was so lost in Naruto's face, she didn't even notice who just entered the room. She leaned forward and planted a gentle kiss on his cheek, but a bright flash of light completely caught her off guard. Peering around, she found her worst nightmare. Holding a camera, her One-Sama now talking her pictures with her Naruto-kun. Flashback ends. She was never felt that amount of embracement in her entire lifespan. Knock. Knock. Come in, replied Sona. And maid enter her room. Sona-sama. You instructed me to inform you when we start the preparation for dinner. Indeed. Sayo-san, is it time? Asked Sona. Hi Sona-sama, we just started the preparation, replied the maid whose name identified as Sayo. Well, I wanted to cook something, replied Sona, getting a stunned look from the maid. Sona-sama? Asked maid who was still have shocked expressions on her face. And why wouldn't she? Sona never cooked before, let alone enter in the kitchen. Don't worry, I know how to cook. Someone taught me so. Said Sona. Hi. Sona-sama, if you need any help just ask me. Sona-sama, replied Sayo. Well, don't tell anyone I'm cooking, I want to surprise them, said Sona. Hi. Sona-sama, replied Sayo. Very well. Lead the way. With Lord and Lady Citri. Did you notice the changes in Sona-chan, dear? Asked Lady Citri. Yes, honey, as you mentioned now. After the summer vacation at Okinawa, she was acting differently, well, not for others, but to the family members, replied Lord Citri, as he stopped his paperwork as he thought about her younger daughter behavior. But the changes was for good for sure. Replied Lady Citri. How? Asked Lord Citri. Don't you see she lesser her strict personality towards family clan member, replied Lady Citri. But before Lord Citri asked anything, a loud knock at the door interrupted them. Come in. Entering the study room, Sayo bowed and said, Lord and Lady Citri, dinner is ready. Thank you, Sayo, tell Sons and Serafel we'll be there in 5 minutes. Hi Lord Citri, replied the maid as she bowed again and left the room. At the dinner table. Today's cooking smells something different. Said Lord sighed as he and Lady Citri seated. Serafel had a very amused expressions as she knew the reason why it smelled different. But she decided to play along, let her little sister do what she wanted to do. When Lord Citri tasted his meal, you could see the star in his eyes. He immediately looked at Sayo and said, Sayo, what did you add in tonight dinner? It's taste heavenly. Tonight dinner wasn't prepared by me, Lord Citri simply replied Sayo. Serafel giggled as she remembered her little sister cooking lesson with Naruto-kun's mother. Flashback begin. It was the evening time. Sona was helping Hitomi to prepare dinner. Ugh, Sona-chan, cook meat little bit more and you'll get the right taste, advice suggested Hitomi while looking at meat. Hi, Hitomi-sama, replied Sona. Oh Sona-chan. How many times I told you not to call me Sama? Asked Hookup with fake anger tone. Hitomi-san timidly said Sona. Hi. Hi, that'll do, said Hitomi. I think it's ready, Hitomi-san, replied Sona. Let me see, Sona-chan, smell is nice, stated Hitomi, then started to check her cooking and spoke. Yes Sona-chan, it is, you'll become very good cook in future, Sona-chan. Sona blushed after being praised by Naruto-kun's mother and spoke, arigato Hitomi-san. I learned from the best. Hitomi just giggled. Flashback ends. Lady Citri raised an eyebrow at her elder daughter's strange behavior and asked Sayo then who cooked tonight dinner. Before Sayo could say anything, her younger daughter was the one who replied, that will be me. The look of utter disbelief spread of her face, and Lord Citri choked his food. And spoke, come again. Serafel laughed openly and replied, instead of her little sister, it was our Sotan who cooked tonight. Silence. Absolutely silence, even dimensional gap silence paled in comparison of silence they were casting now. How? Asked Lady Citri, who still has a disbelief look on her face. Sona was about to answer, but Serafel has other plans and spoke, our future mother-in-law taught Sotan how to cook. The result was something that caught everyone off guard. Lady Citri was looking at her elder daughter who stay 100 kilometers away from the world marriage. Now she acknowledged someone as her future mother-in-law. Well, all she has to do is start preparation for her wedding, but first she has talked to the boy men who caught her elder's eyes. But wait. Did she say ours? Screamed Lady Citri in her mind. Lord Sight was no different this time, he choked the water he was drinking. Her daughter had to drop a nuclear level bomb. But before he could ask anything, her younger daughter exclaimed. Ours? Cried Sona in embracement. I see. You aren't denying that she is your future mother-in-law, replied Serafel playfully. Well, that statement's not only caught Sona completely off guard, but Lord and Lady Citri were both looking at her younger daughter like she grew another head. One-sama. Oh, I think Naruto-kun don't mind if we both get married to him, playfully replied Serafel, getting a completely red Sona. Stay Naruto-kun out of this one Isama, cried Sona. Fine, but I'll join you both at bedtime. Last time I missed, and you mean he didn't invite me, playfully replied Seraphil, while making a pout and last. Lord and Lady Citri, both of them looking at their daughters as they didn't even knew them. Both of them looked towards and blinked when they caught the sleeping part. Excuse me. Stated Lord Citri. He had enough now, his both daughter have a crush on the same guy. And he didn't even know about him. Yes, daddy, replied Seraphil cutely. Who is this Naruto guy you were both talking about, asked Lord Citri. Not to mention our younger daughter was sleeping with him, added Lady Citri. He is our boyfriend, replied Seraphil with a peace sign. And Sona was sleeping with him? Asked Lord Citri. It wasn't like that, we just fall asleep together, defended Sona. Seraphil hadn't have enough and draw her trump card. And spoke, the picture says completely different story. Sleeping in each other arms, interlocking their legs, not to mention you were kissing him. Lord Citri looking at her daughter in disbelief. The bomb that just dropped by both of his daughters was beyond the level of nuclear class. He couldn't take it anymore and he'll faint. Lady Citri looked at her daughter, then her husband, and said, dear, start the preparation for Sona's wedding. Yes honey, Seraphil, could you give us details about my future son-in-law and his family, asked Lord Citri. Lady Citri nodded as she also wanted to know who stole her both daughters' hearts. Sona was now staring at them with shocked expressions. His full name is Naruto Uzumaki. Again, absolute silence. Sayo, who was standing near the dining table, fainted. Poor girl. Lord and Lady Citri have their jaw to the ground. Lady Citri somehow composed herself and asked, did you just say Uzumaki? As for the Uzumaki. Seraphil nodded cheerfully, while Sona started to thinking how the hell she got in this mess. All she did was cook dinner to surprise her parents. Who in the right mind guessed that her one Isama was pulled something like that? Well, I can't complain since it's Naruto-kun. Wait, what? What the hell I was thinking, thought Sona, but suddenly reminded the situation she got herself when she caught sleeping together with Naruto-kun by her own one Isama, no less. Baka Naruto-kun. Look what you did to me, I can't stop thinking about you. Seraphil continued and spoke, he is grandson of Max and Luna Uzumaki, heir to the house of Uzumaki. As expected from my daughters Uzumaki, the Uzumaki, muttered Lord Citri. I think we should contact Uzumaki for 2 marriage agreements, said Lady Sight to Lord Citri. Do? Asked questioned Sona. Yeah, yours and your one Isama, replied Lord Citri. Seraphil cheered and started her victory, completely forgetting she was having her dinner. Sona was blushing madly. Lady Sight had in very amused expressions. Then I'll contact Uzumaki for marriage agreements right away, stated Lord Citri as he left the room instantly to contact House of Uzumaki. We are invited to Naruto-kun's birthday, stated Sona. Ah. So what, you decided to gift your future husband on his birthday, teased Lady Citri. I didn't decide it yet, replied a very blushing Sona. I'll give myself, Seraphil stated boldly. One Isama. So should I start shopping for my grandchild? Asked Lady Citri. Asama cried, exclaimed Sona. Seraphil just giggled and spoke, you should ask Sona, after all she found red-handed. Sona didn't know whose teasing was bad. If her one Isama was bad, her mother is worst. In the end she decided to be quiet and finish her dinner. Meanwhile with Lord Citri. Max Uzumaki was just finished his dinner and now currently doing his paperwork in his study room. Then suddenly a magical circle activated near his ear. He first looked at the magical circle, and when he found the Citri symbol in it, he responded immediately. Hello, responded Max. Greetings Max, and replied Lord Citri. Oh. It is you, Jin-san, how have you been? Asked Max. Fine Max, and I have some important matter to ask, it's about 2 marriage agreements, replied Jin. Max signed heavily, knowing full well this was going to happen soon, but never thought it's going to happen this soon. Give me 10 minutes, Jin-san. Let me ask Naruto-kun first, asked Max. Sure Max-san, replied Jin. But when he about to cut off, Max stopped and said, but he'll going to marry more girls. Excuse me? Jin asked. Who knew, daughter of Yusaka, I think you knew who she is going to marry him in the future. And some other girls too, replied Max. Jin stared at him and said, but I thought he is 6 soon to be 7. Yes he is, but he is chick magnet, don't ask, normal equations doesn't suit him, said Max while muttering the last part. Jin just chuckled and asked, I presume my daughters knew about it. Yes, simply replied Max. Jin have tears in his eyes and said, the kid is going to have a lifestyle every man wish for. Now Max have tears in his eyes and replied, you got that right Jin-sama, it's called legal paradise. So I'll prepare marriage agreements papers right away, replied Jin. Engagement will just do now, as for marriage just say when Naruto will 20 year of his age then. Suggested Max. Jin thought for a moment and spoke, Prefect Max-san, and broke the conversation. Max called Wake and instructed him to get Naruto. Within 2 minutes standing in front of Max, a very curious Naruto was standing. You called Gigi? Hi, you see Naruto, let me get straight. Naruto, how do you feel about all the girls around you? Asked Max with a serious face. Naruto have a tendency to blush, but seeing serious face of his Gigi he couldn't and replied, I like them Gigi, hell I love some of them, but Max smiled at his grandson and spoke, but what? I can't with all of them, right Gigi? Asked Naruto with a sad smile. What if I told you you can, Naruto? Replied a very amused Max. Naruto stared at his Gigi for a while and asked how. Max just chuckled and replied, you can marry all of them. But Naruto started, but Max stopped him and asked how. Tell me one thing Naruto, when you go to bed what you saw every night. How what you mean? Asked a very confused Naruto. Did any of the girl miss sleeping with you? Asked Max. Naruto stared at him for a full moment then asked, and what are you getting at? They all have an agreement. An agreement? Yes. They will share you. Wait what? But who told you? The office. Naruto signed and asked what was the real reason you called. Max chuckled and spoke Citri sent marriage proposals. What? Marriage? Don't worry it's just engagement and as for marriage until you turn 20. Naruto signed. He is too young to deals with this shit. Naruto was staring at his grandfather for almost 5 minutes, no one said a single word after last statement. Finally, the silence was broken as Naruto asked once again, and what Sona? Already started to care about your fiancé. Teased Max, but when he saw Naruto's serious face. He dropped his teasing manner and spoke, she already know. Naruto eyes widened in disbelief. He asked again to confirm whatever he just heard she knew about. Yes she knew about others so you don't have to worry replied Max. I guess signed Naruto. You just have to worry about others for now suggested Max. Huh? And why so? Asked Naruto with a confused expressions. Max chuckled and spoke girls jealousy you'll understand soon it's just a beginning. Naruto completely sure. He didn't like the way his grandfather just spoke if what he understood from last statement was true then whatever remaining peace left in his life will be over. Underworld. Sona somehow finished her dinner. But constant teasing from her One-sama and Ka-sama were making her run away from the living hall to her bedroom. But she had to wait for her Ada-sama. As he was currently talking with Uzumaki for her and her One-sama marriage. Unfortunately, she had to wait for her Ada-sama until he finished his talking with Uzumaki. She didn't know what to feel. She was nervous as hell, but she was excited too. She clearly had no single clue how Uzumaki were reacted. How was Naruto thinking about her now? Did he accept it? Or declined? Sona never felt this level of nervous in her entire life. Until she met Naruto Uzumaki. After meeting Naruto, she felt different types of emotions at its peak. Serafal was no different. After rejecting countless number of marriage proposals, she didn't know she'll ever say yes to marriage, not to mention sent by her own very house after her own suggestion. First time in her entire life she was nervous, not the devil's civil war made her nervous of this lever. Yes, she was nervous at the time of war because countless life were at the line. But the level of nervous she was feeling right now was insane. Did Naruto-chan accepted their proposals? Or he rejected? Thought Serafal damn it. I even didn't get the chances of bonding with Naruto-chan, screamed Serafal in her mind well at least bathing together. Flashback begins. In the shower room Naruto had started to shower and just sat letting the hot water rinse his body and he hoped his stress away. Footsteps approached the young boy and by the time he had heard them it was too late. He felt a pair of what could only be described as large marshmallows on his back and then a voice saying, do you need help washing your back? Serafal. The boy fell and hit his head on the floor in shock. He then looked up to see Serafal's naked form, had it not been for the mist in the room he would have been able to see every detail. What are you doing in here? He screamed as he tried to cover himself. Well for one Naruto I wanted to take a shower, she said with an evil grin on her face, but I guess we can take together now. That's now what I'm asking. Flashback ends. Ah. Good times thought Serafal with a blushing face which didn't go unnoticed by her mother. Needless to say, when Naruto came out from his shower, he had a very red face that could rival his own hair. Thus say yes to proposal Naruto-chan I'll take care of rest as Serafal thought, steam came out from her ears. Lady Citri had a slight idea what her elder daughter was thinking. She never thought she'll live a day to see her daughter was acting like that. Was she blushing? Why was One-sama red all of a sudden? It was like thought Sona and stared at her One-sama, but when she saw steam came out, it's just confirmed her suspicion. But what was she thinking that made her blush like schoolgirl? Was it's Naruto-kun? Little did she know, her One-sama already got a chance to showering together. The silence was broken as their mother spoke, so tell me about my future son-in-law. Asked teased Lady Citri. This was one of hell of chance to tease her daughters, she won't gonna miss it, much to Sona embracement. As you know, his name is Naruto Uzumaki. Surprisingly, Sona started. Lady Citri thought her elder daughter was going to reply, but her younger beat her into it. Son of Kai and Hitomi Uzumaki, grandson of Max and Luna Uzumaki, continued Serafal. Sona nodded. And before we can tell you anything, we would like to keep it secret until he is ready to reveal himself to supernatural world, added Sona while looking at her One-sama, who nodded in agreement. Then their Ka-sama. Lady Citri raised an eyebrow at her daughter's request, but accepted it nonetheless. If her future son-in-law didn't want to reveal himself in supernatural world, she'll accept it for now at least. Fine, replied Lady Citri. He is current Red Dragon Emperor, added Serafal after her mother accepted her little sister request. What? The Red Dragon Emperor? Asked Lady Citri. She didn't know if she feel excited or nervous for her daughter's future. But chuckled at last, surprising her daughters, and spoke, looks like Uzumaki carried their legacy. Anyway, he is cute, continued Sona. But when she registered her own words, she blushed heavily. She didn't realize what she said until it was already spoken. Baka Naruto. Making me say something embracing. Baka. Lady Citri giggled. But the real bomb was yet to drop by Serafal as she thought aloud, not to mention the expressions he made when we showered together. Lady Side and Sona both stated at Serafal as they had seen ghost or biblical god and devil cases. What? Both Lady Side and Sona exclaimed in unison. Serafal blinked and chuckled when she realized her mistake and spoke, did I say aloud? While rubbing her head. But Lady Citri wanted to know more about her future son-in-law, so she ignored it and asked another questions. All she got still was his name, his parents' and grandparents' names. Is he strong? Or potential to become strong? Yes, his current level now surpass any ultimate class, said Sona. Not to mention, he is surpassing his own aura, making it look himself less strong, added Serafal. Serafal. You didn't mean, asked Lady Citri to reconfirm what was she just heard. As you mentioned now. One-sama, he is as strong as your true form, if not more than that, added Sona. She well knew Naruto-kun was surpassing his own aura, that was later confirmed by Office herself. He was currently living with his parents and grandparents and other girls, said Serafal while making a nervous face. She didn't know how her mother will react to news of her future son-in-law already making an harem for himself. And it doesn't matter even he didn't know himself about it. Lady Citri blinked twice before she asked in very sweet threatening tone, some other girls, Sarah-chan. Sona didn't like how this conversation ended up like this, so she did her best to defend her Naruto-kun. He has an peerage, causally replied Sona, as like she was telling today's news. Sorry, Sona-chan, I didn't hear you clearly. I think I just heard that my future son-in-law having a peerage. Asked Lady Citri. Because she said so, yes, and before you overreact about this matter let us explain, said Serafal. Lady Citri remained silent as giving her daughters a chance to explain. As I mentioned, he has peerage, but he has special type of peerage. A peerage of dragons more specifically, said Sona. Yes. Ka-san, you heard clearly. Dragons. Added Serafal. And let me get straight, the girls in peerage have some feeling towards my future son-in-law. Asked Lady Sight to confirm her suspicion. Sona nodded and spoke yes. But all of them have genuine feeling towards him. We met them where I became close friends to all of them. Replied Sona, remembering her friendship with other girls. Lady Citri looked at her and thought if the smile on her face was true, then I have nothing to fear about them. Hi Ka-san. They were all have pure heart, added Serafal. And how Naruto treating them? Lady Citri asked. She couldn't help but wanted to know how her future son-in-law was treating his peerage. If there was the easiest way to judge a personality, you could judge via how the said person treat his or her peerage. Hearing their mother questions, both girls smiled as she reminded themselves how gentle Naruto treats his peerage members, or should they say family member. He didn't treat them as they are his peerage members, instead he treated them as they were his family members, replied Serafal. Lady Citri tensed when she heard Serafal started, but a genuine smile spread on her face as Serafal ends her statement. Better than Gremory, added Sona. Serafal nodded in agreement. Are you coming in or staying there and continue listening our conversation, spoke Lady Citri. Serafal and Sona blinked in confusion, but their confusion answered as Lord Citri entered the room. Sama, exclaimed Serafal and Sona. So that was something Max-san told me, asked my daughters. Huh. Muttered Jin to himself, but Lady Citri heard him and spoke. Care to elaborate, Dira, asked Lady Citri, but her tone promised pain if he failed to answer. Well, honey, you see our future son-in-law have a tendency to attract girls, started Jin, but Serafal didn't take it well and spoke. It's not like that, Naruto-chan never play with anyone emotion. Sona nodded and spoke. Naruto-kun is very kind, gentle, powerful, but not ignorant. He even treat his household servants with respects which many men lacked. Lady Citri smiled as that was something she wanted to heard from her daughter's mouth. and looked at her husband and spoke, "I get it why Max-san mentioned his grandson has tendency to attract girls," while looking at both of her daughters, who were now completely blushing mess. But a question still remained unanswered, stated Jin. "What was a daddy?" asked Serafol cheerfully. "How was in 9 Hell Naruto obtain his evil pieces?" asked Jin. That was something even I wanted to know," added Lady Citri. "He got it as a special gift from someone and he called his evil pieces the dragon pieces," replied Sona. "The dragon pieces ... huh," said Jin. "A fitting name for don't you agree, dear Lady Citri? The evil pieces who turned its bearer into a dragon, indeed it's very fitting name our future son-in-law came with," replied Jin. "I take it all the matter we discussed are to be kept secret until he'll reveal himself?" asked Jin. "Yes. It'll be quite troublesome if we revealed now," said Serafol with a serious face. Sona couldn't help but agree with her One-sama. Lady Citri nodded and spoke agreed. "A back to marriage agreement," started Jin, catching everyone's attention in the room and continue. "Max-san mentioned our future son-in-law was quite friendly with Kunu, daughter of Yasaka Serafol," and Sona nodded, while Lady Citri was looking at her husband in disbelief, but Jin ignored and continued, "So don't get surprised if Kunu get engaged to our future son-in-law in future." Lady Citri had her jaw on the ground, while Sona and Serafol just giggled. "No biggie and we already have a mutual sharing agreement," stated Sona. Serafol nodded. "Now if Lord Citri didn't had his jaw on ground earlier, now he has." Lord and Lady Citri now had to accept clearly that her future son-in-law will be going to have an harem whose girls were already in mutual agreement. "Lucky future son-in-law," muttered Jin. "Well, if isn't for Naruto going to engage with his daughters, he'll muttered something else, or if this fic isn't rated K, then the word will be different for sure." Unfortunately for Jin, her wife heard him crystal clear and spoke, "What was it, dear?" asked Lady Side in very sweet tone that promised lots of pain, broken bones, many more. He just shudder at the thought what his wife will do now with him. "Nothing, honey, I just said our future son-in-law is lucky to going to marry both of our daughters." "Oh really, dear? I thought there was something else," replied Lady Citri with a sweet tone. "I wouldn't dare to lie, honey," replied Jin, who paling every second at the thought of what his wife will do to him. "You better," said Lady Citri in very threatening tone. "So you both don't have an issues with my future son-in-law any marriage?" asked Lady Citri as she wanted to reconfirm everything. "Don't worry, she won't let anyone add in his harem whose intention wasn't good," replied Sona. "She?" asked Lord Citri. Lady Citri blinked and looked at her daughter, somehow even she hasn't guessed who may be this she, but her identity is still mysterious to her. "Who is she if I may ask?" "Someone happened to be alpha of his harem?" asked Lady Citri. Sona nodded. Lord Citri waited potentially to know identity of she. "Her name is Office," stated Serafol. Thump. Lord Citri couldn't take it, the identity of the alpha of his future son-in-law's harem, and he fainted. 5 minutes later He is waking up mommy, said a cheerful voice of Serafol. "We can see One-sama," replied a very annoyed Sona. Lady didn't say anything as she was waiting for her husband to regain his conscious. Her both daughters have given them enough surprise for her entire devil lifespan. Ugh, what happened?" asked Jin as he regained his conscious. "Madao-san, you fainted," replied Sona somewhat annoyed. "Huh?" said Jin and blinked as he also regained the memories before fainting. "Tell me you were kidding," asked Lord Citri with a very horrified expressions. Daddy Office-chan wasn't that bad once you get to know her, in fact she was very caring," replied Serafol. Lord and Lady Citri didn't know what to do in this kind of situation. In the end she decided to agree with her older daughter as there was a reason she was a devil king after all. "Anyway, there was a reason I planned to cook dinner," stated Sona with a serious face, catching everyone's attention towards her. "It's about I want to ask a favor, more specifically a friend of mine wanted a favor," continued Sona. Serafol and her parents have a confused expressions on their faces as they didn't know which friend of hers she was talking about. "Well, it's about his Oba-sen was attacked by some rough fallen angels few months ago and he asked if we could check her in Serafol Memorial Hospital," asked Sona. "Huh? Then he should admitted her there, or if he is your friend he didn't even have to pay unless he is," stated Lord Citri. "Yes. He isn't a devil," said Sona. "But you know SMH isn't for non-devil unless the said person has some sort of alliance with us," replied Lady Citri. "Yeah, that's why I asked for a favor, but I don't need it anymore as we already going to have an alliance with them," casually replied Sona. "Excuse me?" asked Lord Citri. Ignoring him, Sona continued. But I don't think I need to ask a favor since that friend of mine happens to be Naruto-kun," said Sons, and a blush spread on her cheek as she mentioned the name of Naruto. She remembered very well what her Naruto-kun asked her. Flashback begin. Sona was video chatting with Naruto before going for lunch. So-chan asked Naruto, making Sona nervous. You didn't tell me more about Citri, nervously asked Naruto. Citri clan. The Citri clan is one of the remaining 33 devil clans of the 72 pillars and one of the highest ranking at prince and famous devil families. Replied Sona, and she continued, well, it paled in compared to powerhouse with such as yours. But the Citri clan are also known to be one of the few territories which have advanced medical facilities as well, having one of the most famous hospitals in the underworld. Well, that was something that caught Naruto's eyes. And he spoke. Hospital. Advanced medical facilities, you say? Yes, a hospital created by one Isama from the natural reserves of our clan. It is famously known throughout the underworld to not only have the best of our family's medical facilities, but also for being named after her, which increased its popularity, as she is the most famous female devil in the underworld. Naruto stared at her like he has seen Ghost or Trihixa in Naruto case. Making Sona worried. Naruto-kun, called Sona. Huh. You are spacing out, Naruto-kun, are you alright? Asked Sona with a worried face. Actually so-chan. Can I ask you a favor? Asked Naruto. Sona blinked and smiled. Of course. Naruto-kun, anything, replied Sona, somewhat blushing, which completely go unnoticed by Naruto. Well. You see. It's about my Oba-san. Flashback ends. Lord Citri nervously chuckled and spoke, well yeah, even he didn't need to ask a favor. His Oba-san was attacked. Wait a minute. Wasn't Kurumi was related to Naruto, not to mention his cousin? Asked Serafo. Yes, his Oba-chan was Kurumi's mom, replied Sona. Mind if I ask who is this Kurumi girl? Asked annoyed Lady Citri. Well, she is Naruto's cousin, also his queen. Replied Serafo. Also the current welder of Long Inus Incinerate Anthem, added Sona, making her parents' eyes widened. Oh my. Looks like our future son-in-law already making a strong peerage, dear, said Lady Sight with a very high spirit. Hi. Honey, replied Jin with a smile. He called them his family members. You know that, Sona, remind them. Hi, we will remember that, assured Jin with a nervous smile. So he already has a queen, huh? Asked Lady Citri. Yes, queen and 3 pawns, replied Serafo. 3 pawns? Asked a very excited Jin. Somehow he got very interested in his future son-in-law peerage. Yeah. One of them is half kitsune, another one is a special human girl, started Serafo. And last one is welder of divine dividing, continued Sona, making her parents' eyes at size of soccer. Did you mean White Dragon Emperor? Asked Lord Citri Jin with a nervous smile. Hi, replied Sona. But wasn't the red and white eternal rival? Asked Lady Citri, still wasn't sure at what she was hearing now. Naruto, somehow sorted there is Sue, and it's White Dragon Empress, replied Sona. Excellent, as expected from my future son, cheered Lord Citri. You didn't mention each peerage member have potential to surpass Super Devil Class, stated Serafo. Making her parents speechless. Anyway, so Tan. You mean he didn't tell me your secret chatting with Naruto Kun, teased Serafo. Getting a red face Sona while Lady Citri giggled. Meanwhile with Naruto. Naruto was staring at his grandfather in utter disbelief. Let me get straight, not only Citri sent marriage proposals for Sona, they also sent for Serafo, asked Naruto 3rd times. Yes, for the 3rd times, Naruto replied Max. But Naruto started, but his grandfather continued, no, but young man, when you showered with a girl, accept her to get married with you, teased Max. But wasn't she the Devil King, and asked Naruto. Oh. Naruto, she clearly has an interest in you, just get engaged for now, remember you don't have to marry, just know. Assured Max. Naruto nodded. So I'm sending the marriage agreements, asked, confirmed Max. Fine, replied Naruto with a blushing face as he reminded his little shower incident. When Naruto entered his room, he thought he'll directly go to bed and sleep for next 10 hours. Unfortunately, girls have other plans. When Naruto entered his room, he saw all girls seating on his bed, including Kunu. What took you this long, Naruto-kun? Asked Kurumi. Well, there was something that required my presence, replied Naruto, who didn't know how to clarify his situation. And what was it? Asked Naruki. I got engaged, simply stated Naruto. What, exclaimed Kurumi, Kunu, Tiamat, Valen, Naruki, and Satsuki. Office decided to remain calm as she let her mate finished. What was he saying? Naruto-kun. Explained, start talking, demanded Kunu as her 9 tails taking a very terrified position. There was some purple flame on Kurumi, making her look like death incarnate. Tiamat was making a very sweet face that promised pain. Valen and Satsuki were glaring daggers at him, one wrong move and he is dead. Naruki was looking at him as she was about to burst in crying. Well, you see, started Naruto. 20 minutes later. So that's how it is, and why any of you tell me that you all have an agreement, asked Naruto, making all of girls go red. So you knew? Asked Kurumi while playing with her finger. Hi. And? What do you think, Naruto-kun? Surprisingly asked Valen. Naruto signed before he spoke, and if you think I'll abandon any of you or treat you differently, then you all are dead wrong. Didn't I say once you all are too close to my heart to abandon any of you is like rejecting one part of my own heart. Before he could say anything more he was tackled by a horde of girls. Aka Naruto. Making my heart feel this way, muttered Kurumi. You know right words to win my heart, don't you? Darling, whispered Tiamat. My Naruto-koi, muttered Kunu to herself while wrapping her 9 tails around Naruto. You better take responsibility after this, muttered Valen and Satosuki in unison. Naruki didn't say anything, just wrapped her tails around Naruto's left leg. Braid-chan didn't left out as he muttered, lucky bastard inside the mindscape, but Naruto could hear him loud and clear. He didn't know how is his father gonna react. The Office was standing there with amused expressions. Her mate was quite a charmer, that was something Office realized long ago. Underworld. Sona, Seraphol and their parents were discussing about Naruto when a magical circle appeared near Jin's ear, catching everyone's attention. Looks like Max and contacted, stated Lady Side as Lord Citri responded to communicative magical circle. All went good, I presume, asked Jin. Max chuckled and spoke high. All went well. I'm sending you marriage agreements, which includes Naruto will marry both Sona and Seraphol once he reached at the age of 20. And an alliance between Citri clans and Uzumaki. Jin nodded with a smile and spoke, then I'll finalize it. And make it official. Max was about to broke the conversation when Jin stopped him and spoke, well, you see, Max-san, yesterday Naruto asked Sona a favor about checking his Oba-san in Seraphol Memorial Hospital. Max's eyes widened as he forget the person he was dealing also happened to be owning and managing most advanced medical facilities. Hi. Rose-chan is like a daughter to me if you ask Max, but Jin cut him off in middle and spoke, you don't have to worry about her anymore before Naruto's 7th birthday. She'll be completely healed. Thanks Jin-san, said Max, and a true warm smile spread on his face, and he cut the magical conversation. Jin turned to girls and asked, so who's going to sign the contract first? 20 minutes later. So it's done? Asked Lady Citri to confirm the papers. Lord Citri grinned and spoke high. It is done now, it's official. Are we going to make it official announcement? Asked Seraphol cheerfully. Lady Citri giggled and Sona facepalmed. While Lord Citri laughed wholeheartedly. Nah, I think we should keep it quiet for now. Replied Sona. Seraphol looked at her with a curious expressions which Sona noted and continued, look One-sama, since we are keeping secret of identity of Naruto. Sona, you made a valid point which couldn't be ignored, said Lord Citri after thinking her younger daughter words. But what we'll say if anyone or devil community asked about the marriage. Asked Lady Citri. We could just say both of daughters already have fiancé and it's clan business, stated Lord Citri. And anyone can't interfere in clan business, added Seraphol as a mischievous smile spread on her face. Very devilish of you, dear, said Lady Citri. Of course, honey. So we should start celebration, stated Seraphol while doing her famous dance. Celebration? Asked Sona with a confused face. Of course, Erach-chan, Lord Citri. Lady Citri nodded and spoke, Seo, make the preparation. Hi. Lady Citri bowed Seo and left the room. So girls, who is before Lady Citri asked another question about her future son-in-law. Knock knock. Come in, ordered Lady Side, and door opened as another maid of the house entered the room. Lady Citri slightly raised her eyebrows on newcomer entry. Lord Citri, Surzich's Lucifer-sama wants to meet you, and Lady Riaz is also with him. Said the maid with a bow. Sona scowled as she didn't want to do something with him. While Seraphol looked completely uninterested as only thing she wanted to do was celebrated at her and her little sister engagement. Lord and Lady Citri turned their facial expressions like a respected clan leader should have. Lord Citri nodded to maid and instructed her to lead them here. They didn't have to wait long as nearly after 5 minutes, a handsome and young man, having the appearance of a man in his early 20s with shoulder-length crimson red hair and blue-green eyes entered the room. He was the current Lucifer of Underworld, Surzich's Lucifer. But a beautiful young girl with white skin, blue eyes with him. Her most distinctive feature is her long beautiful crimson hair that reaches down to her thighs with a single hair strand sticking out from the top. Her hair also has loose bangs covering her forehead and side bangs framing her face. She's the little sister of current Lucifer, Riaz Gremory. They greeted each others. Lord and Lady Citri and Seraphol decided it's better to talk in study room, so they with Surzich's went to study room, leaving Sons and Riaz with themselves. Sona-chan, did you practice some magic? Asked Riaz, knowing well enough that Sona mainly consider in strategies rather than raw power, but she didn't know that after meeting Naruto, Sona changed. She not only want to outmaster her opponents with just strategically, but with her power too. If her own One-sama could become the strongest woman in hell, then she'll surpass her one day. She vowed to herself, if others girls who have a thing for her Naruto-kun and ridiculously strong already, but still trained to become more powerful in future, then why wouldn't she? No. She won't become just a king who just makes strategy for her peerage but become something more. After meeting Ishu and his incomplete peerage and saw how they treated each other was did enough to open her eyes. So the day she returned from the vacation, she went straight to her parents and asked them to train her. That surprised her parents too, as she never asked them to train her like their older daughter used to ask in her younger days. Well, Serafo wasn't that old. Back to the topic, her parents immediately agreed to their younger daughter request, no question asked. When Serafo caught a wind of her little sister was doing rough training, she wasn't too much pleased. Call it one-sama instinct, who didn't want to see her little sister hurt even if it's from training session. But after a little assured from Sona, changed her views, not to mention how proud she was with her little sister when she described she wanted to become strong, not just a strategic for her peerage, and also wanted to surpass her one day, leaving Naruto part. She not only have affinity to water, but ice too, just like her one-sama which took her enough time to awaken it. And she was damn sure if she wasn't doing the training she started after the vacation, she won't even know she has also affinity towards ice. Not to mention the book Valen gave her come handy and made her training tougher than usual. She didn't tell her family that she awakened an affinity towards ice, rather decided to show them. What a better way to show how much potential she has. So she learned a simple but pretty offensive and defensive ice magic from the book Valen had given her. When she showed her little trick to her parents and one-sama, needless to say their jaw hit the ground faster than Naruto swings his mood. She giggled at that thought, the astonished, surprised, and awed faces of her parents and one-sama. She composed herself and spoke, "Yes, I did." Riaz looked at her surprised as Sona never admitted she trained in magical department. "What about you, Riaz?" continued Sona. If Riaz wasn't surprised by her previous answer, she was now no. Sona never asked about it. "I'm doing fine," replied Riaz, nonetheless. "My goal is set, I'll become the champion of rating games," stated Riaz's smug ignorance. "Of course you will," replied Sona sarcastically, which didn't go unnoticed by Riaz as she scowled and spoke, "like you can. Again, to her surprise, Sona just chuckled and spoke, "Who knows, maybe and I have a different goal." "You sure do, maybe win few chess tournament," taunted Riaz. Sona didn't like a bit what she said and a devilish smile spread on her face and she spoke. "Congratulations," said Sona with a smirk. "Huh?" said Riaz with a confused expressions. "I heard you got engaged. Sona stated simply, getting a red face. Riaz full of anger and embracement. Her spoiled attitude was telling her to say something to shut Sona's mouth, while one part of her wanted to ask Sons to help her so she could get out of her marriage. In the end, her spoiled attitude won as she said something that will closed any chances for her to get Sona's help. "Thank you, but I couldn't say same thing about you," said Riaz. Sona just chuckled, getting a red face wrote as she thought Sona was making fun of her, but Sona continued and spoke, "Oh silly me. I didn't tell you." Yet paused Sona before a pure smile spread on her face. "I got engaged today." Riaz blinked and started laughing loudly. Sona's eyes twitched when she saw Riaz making fun of her engagement. "Stop joking around, Sona," said Riaz somehow between her laugh. Sona just smiled and spoke, "Joking, Riaz. I wasn't talking about your engagement," paused Sona as she saw a completely red face Riaz full of embracement and she continued, "I got engaged today. So it's obvious that you don't know, so I'll let you slide this time, but next you make fun of my engagement." Again paused Sona as she let her little bit demonic power release around her, making huge temperature drop in the room, and she continued, "We will have a problem then," said Sona sweetly, but the aura around was screaming to froze everything around her and there was no way it was sweet. Riaz, who was already on her knees, sweat running down her face, but in the same time she was feeling cold. It was so cold that its mere presence can freeze you. She nodded whatever demanded the ice princess made to her. As she nodded, she found the entire demonic aura she was brought herself into had gone, leaving her on her knees. Sona chuckled inwardly in amusement as she saw Riaz in this type of condition, and the reason behind her condition was Sona's demonic power. She never thought Riaz was going to push her to release her little bit of demonic power. Her power is increasing exponentially. According to Serafal, even her power wasn't growing at this rate, much to their parents' joy, as they never thought Sona will ever show the same potential as their older daughter shown before, not to mention having the potential to surpass her. But simply stated Sona as nothing happened. "So, who is he?" asked Riaz. "That's Secret," replied Sona cheerfully, giving Riaz another shock. As she never thought she'll live a day when Sona will act like Serafal. "I bet Rizer is better than him. Said Riaz nonchalantly. She didn't care about Rizer, but she'll be damned if Sona get a better husband than her. Sona blinked and stared at Riaz, and a moment later, burst out in laughing, which quite unnerved Riaz, and a visible anger expressions would displayed on her face if she didn't hide it in her fake smile. "Are you laughing at me, Sona?" Asked Riaz with annoyed and anger expressions, which was hidden of course, but Sona could easily find it anyway, after all she is a heiress too, an intelligent one. Of course. Not, why did you think so? Replied Sona sarcastically, getting a full red Riaz of anger. Sona didn't make Riaz more mad, and she continued, you said yours is better than mine. Sona emphasized the word yours, making Riaz flinched, but her sentence wasn't a question, it's a statement. Riaz didn't understand what her best friend was getting at, but she replied nonetheless, why yes. This time Sona didn't laugh like last time, but anger expressions shone in her eyes, and then she grinned and spoke, oh really Riaz? I didn't find a single trace of arrogance in him. This time Riaz couldn't hide behind her fake smile as her mask completely broke. If the last time Riaz was hiding behind her mask and showing a half smile, this time it was completely broken as visible anger displayed on her face, but Sona ignored it and continued, you know what Riaz? What? Asked Riaz half-heartedly. He doesn't want me. Because I'm a Citri and a heiress of the clan nonetheless, paused Sona as she shifted the direction of her face, now facing the window of the room, now looking at the garden through the window, completely missing the disbelieving and somewhat angry look of Riaz's face. And you know what? It was my house with my permission sent a marriage proposals to his house. If just a disbelieving look was the expressions of Riaz before, it was now completely replaced by utter disbelief, shocked, stunned and somewhat betrayal. Her face showed bewildered expression, taken aback by Sona's sudden comment. But Riaz started but cut off by Sona as she spoke, you do know what it means. Don't you, Riaz? Paused Sona as she thought about the moment when first time she met her Naruto. She actually didn't meet him exactly, she bumped into him. A soft smile always spread on her face whenever she thought about that moment. Sona turned around and saw, Riaz clenched her fist angrily and now barely controlling her urge to not burst out in her anger. But that didn't stop Sona as she continued, and he accepted the proposals, of course, making it final. You know what, Riaz, he doesn't want me as his trophy wife or one of his conquest. He wants me as a Sona. Just. Sona, nothing else mattered to him. Sona paused again as she thought about the moment when her future mother-in-law taught her cooking for the first time, and how did she treated her like she was her mother. That was something Sona valued above all of thing, the love of the family, after all her parents mostly busy in household affairs. And it also wasn't like they didn't love her. No, her parents love her dearly. Not to mention she also have an overprotective obsessive one Isama who didn't think a single time before showering her in her affection. Even if I somehow disowned by Citri clan, he'll still want me. They will want me, finished Sona, getting a stunned Riaz as the bold comment from Sona's completely caught her off guard. She opened her mouth to say something, but words could come to her mouth as she thought if she ever get disowned by her clan, what will she do? No, her brother won't let that happen, and so Sona's sister too. But still Sona could say something so easily and still then someone want her just for being Sona was completely ridiculous in Ria's mind, as something like that couldn't be real. She always thought about true love and wanted to marry someone for love, not just for it was arranged, but that thought completely vanished from her mind when her family told her about Riser Phoenix and her arranged marriage. And here she was standing in front of her best friend who will marry someone she loves unlike her. And more of that, it was Sona's family who sent her marriage proposals after getting Sona's permission. Why didn't her family did that for her? But before Riaz asked anything, a voice came from her behind, are you having fun, Ria-tan? Turning around, Sona caught the sight of Surziches, her Oni-sama, and her parents. Seeing her Oni-sama, Riaz cheered. Oni-sama, you returned, asked Riaz. To which Surziches shows his famous grimmery smile and spoke, hi Ria-tan. You know Oni-sama? Paused Riaz, then looked at Sona, then again at her Oni-sama, and continue, Sona is engaged. That caught Surziches Lucifer completely off guard. Serafal and Lady Citri just giggled and Lord Citri chuckled. Surziches turned to Lord Citri while maintaining his letter face and asked, is it true? Lord Citri. Lord Citri was about to answer his questions, but Serafal beat him to it as she spoke, hi Surziches-chan. Today Sona got engaged, but not only Sona get engaged today, paused Serafal as pink blush form on her face, but before she continues, Lady Citri spoke, she also got engaged today. Surziches-san. Surziches was dumbfounded for a moment, but a realization suddenly hit his mind as his eyes widened and he asked again to confirmed, you mean to tell me both Sona and Serafal got engaged today? Hi. Surziches, isn't it the news of celebration? Said Lord Citri with an amused smile. But with whom? If you don't mind me asking. Asked Surziches. No. Not at all. Both of them engaged to same person, paused Lord Citri as he looked at the disbelieving face of Surziches and continue, his name is Naruto Uzumaki. Back to Naruto. Currently Naruto was laying on his bed trying to get some sleep, but he knew the sleep was on wait. After today's certain event, he found himself completely lost. He had no single clue how to deal with the situation. True, he was marked by his office Heim for a long time. But after that she was always by his side, helping him directly or indirectly in anything as she called a wife duty. Then there was his Rumi-chan, at first she was his only friend before Office Heim came to his life. He always felt something for his Rumi-chan, but didn't know what was it. He still have a hard time to believe it, but he certainly knew that with time it will get smoother, as his grandfather said earlier, give it some time it will get smoother. As for Tiamat, he didn't know in which category he will put her. Sometimes she got clingy, most of the time she acted quite flirtish, but she also could act seriously when the situation demanded, not to mention she was proud of herself. And why wouldn't she? She is a dragon king for his father same, and the strongest of all current dragon kings. She ranks 1 if you remove dragon gods of course. Who knew, the first friend he made when he moved into Kyoto. He has mixed feelings for her, but it wasn't like he doesn't like her. Alan, Naruki and Satusuki were the new additions to his family. He didn't know what to feel about them. Given time, he'll surely develop feeling for them too. And there was Irina, his childhood friend. Sure, Rumi-chan forgot about her, but he didn't, she was his childhood friend after all. And he didn't know how she will going to react when she comes to know about his current situation. Just thinking give Naruto a headache. And now, Sona and Serafal, he surely get along with Sona, not to mention their last night sleeping together. But Serafal was the wild card, he didn't completely understand her. Maybe in future he'll get to know her. He distracted from his thought when he sensed some movements in his cheek. As he opened his eyes he found Kunu was caressing his cheek with one of her tails. Her tail's so soft, thought Naruto as he looked at her with a smile and a blush. The said girl was caressing the cheek of her Naruto-koi with her eyes closed. Not only Naruto was in deep thinking, Kunu too. According to her, it was not fair. She met Naruto before the Sonas. So she should be the one who engaged to her Naruto-koi. Naruto was her first friend. Being born as royalty wasn't that awesome that everyone think it is. Yes, you can get anything you wanted but not everything, like spending a quality time with her mother. Her mother was too much busy in her work that she hardly have enough time to play with her. It was always one of her mother's loyal servant who played with her and keep an eye on her when her mother was not around or busy in important meetings. Growing up, she didn't have a single friend as her mother told her that most of the people just try to please her or try to hurt her since she is her mother's daughter. Kunu was born with an ability to sense emotions such as hatred and killing intent in individuals around her, much to her mother's surprise. According to her mother, she inherited this ability from his father, whom Kunu never met. And her mother didn't tell her about him at all. In fact, it was the first time her mother even mentioned about his father in her presence. That was story for another time, back to current topic. Kunu, as she sensed negative emotion, was only trusted her mother and her bodyguards who were extremely loyal to her mother, thus loyal to her too. She usually spent her playtime with one of her mother's bodyguard or wandering around the park near to their palace while some of guards keeping an eye on her. In fact, that was how she met Naruto. That day she sneaked out of palace and the guards were failed to notice her departure. And she was glad they did as she met Naruto, her first friend. When she met him, she was struggling against some rough devils who were targeting her because she was the daughter of Yasaka. If it wasn't for Naruto, she didn't know what will happen to her. Even her mother arrived after Naruto saved her, but she doubted that she would arrive at correct time. When she sensed Naruto, she doesn't feel any negative feeling towards her, rather at the devil around her, she only felt warm sensation around her, felt she will be safe and secured around him, and that draw her attention towards him. Not to mention other girls who were treating her as their family member. At first it was only Naruto-kun and Fist-chan, and others were start to join their little friend circle. She never thought she'll ever make this many friends. And she was glad she did. They completely filled the gap of loneliness in her heart, much to her mother's delight. She looked at Naruto who was sleeping peacefully next to her and started gently caressing his cheek with one of her tails, feeling the warmth he was providing and closed her eyes, but didn't stop caressing her Naruto-koi cheek as her life depend on it. Unknown to her, Naruto was already awake and her little caressing turned his attention completely to her. As Naruto started rubbing her fox ears, making her purr. Kunu slightly opened her eyes and found herself in loving gaze of her Naruto-koi, those golden eyes filled with love and care for her and those around him, looking at her, making her blush neon red. Did I ever tell you how cute you look when you let you fox ears and tails out? Asked Naruto, still rubbing her ears, making her purr and giggle same time. Why yes many times replied Kunu between her purr and giggle. Really her Naruto-koi was the only one who make her feel different type of loving emotion gestures at the same time. Naruto simply smiled at her reply and asked, are you feeling okay? Kunu-chan. This time his tone of voice filled with seriousness and concern of her. Kunu smiled as she felt the emotion he was leaking and spoke yes. She then looked at his golden eyes, those shining golden eyes. She always feel completely lost in those golden eyes. It attracted her more and more whenever she paid a single glance at it, and in the end, she found herself lost in those eyes. "What about you know?" asked Kunu somehow as she pulled herself from those attracting golden eyes. Naruto sighed deeply and replied, "There was lot to take in after what happened today." Kunu looked at him, knowing full well by saying where he was going, and said, "I understand, but you should know. We will be your side." Naruto blinked once and twice as her words reminded him of certain development among the girls, which was completely unknown to him until now. He didn't ask anything from any of girls. It wasn't for he didn't want to know, it's for he didn't know what and how to ask. But finding himself having a comfortable conversation even laying next to each other, he decided to ask her opinion. Kunu was his very first friend when he moved into Kyoto. So who's better person for discussion that matter? Kunu-chan, started Naruto as he looked directly into her golden eyes, making her blush and spoke, "You know the girls' discussion about you know. Naruto tried to ask nervously, but the exact words weren't coming from his mouth. Kunu found the behavior of Naruto cute as she merely giggled in his response, giving Naruto a mini shock. "You wanted to know my opinion, Naruto-kun?" asked Kunu as she could read Naruto like an open book. Naruto nodded at her question. Next thing Naruto felt Kunu moving as she rolled on her side and snuggled close to him. Intentionally, this made her press her form on the young dragon god, causing him to blush in response. "Kunu-chan," stuttered Naruto. He may have gotten used to sleeping with girls in the same bed, but snuggling was something he didn't get used to it. It doesn't matter how many times they snuggled into him while sleeping. Every morning when he awoke he found too much close to him. But still every time he blushed. "Yes, Naruto-kun," replied Kunu playfully. Unknown to her, her words changed the color of her face that put his own hair in shame. "Quit teasing him." Kunu-chan said a third voice, catching both of them off guard as they thought they were the only one who were awoken. Both of them didn't need to turn around the voice of the person, but they did nevertheless, and found Office-chan was looking at them with sleepy eyes. Office moved closer to Naruto and put her head between Naruto's chest and shoulder and wrapped her hand around his chest, making Kunu jealous, and Naruto blushed if any left after Kunu's teasing at the same time. "Office Heim," Naruto said as he found Office too much closer to him. It wasn't the first time though, it reminds him of first night after his Office Heim joined Uzumaki household. "You do not have to worry about my Naruto," mumbled Office, enough to heard by Naruto. "But started Naruto, but Office looked directly at his eyes and put her index finger on his lips, making him silence. "I know what are you thinking right now. But give your thoughts some rest. If you are thinking you will hurt any of girls feeling by polygamy, then what do you think will happen when you reject them?" Office said with a serious face, still looking directly into his eyes. Naruto blinked, then the realization hit him, making his eyes widened, but before he asked anything a voice inside him spoke to him. "She is right," Partner Drake said as he could clearly feel the uneasiness of his host. Naruto blinked at the voice and sighed as he heard Drake-chan. Drake-chan, but polygamy," Naruto tried to say but stopped when he heard Drake-chan laughing. "Ahahaha." Drake continued laughing when he heard the reason that worried his host. Naruto's eyes twitched at his partner laughing. Here he was seriously worrying about something that not only linked with his life only, others too. And he cared about them deeply and won't do anything that will harm any of his household members as well as peerage members. Drake stopped laughing when he felt his host's irritation. "Try not to irritate more his host anymore," he spoke with a serious wise tone. "Polygamy you say, partner?" Naruto nodded mentally at his partner question, making Drake smirked. "You aren't a human," Naruto paused Drake as he looked at the stunned face of his host, and his smirk widened and continued, "I think now you understand, huh? And tell you what. Polygamy is completely normal in our race," finished Drake with a smirk as he know he clearly win the argument. Naruto's eyes widened as his partner comments. How could he forget that basic things about his own race? Polygamy is completely normal thing for a dragon, even devil, fallen angels, and some other supernatural races are known for having more than one wife. Office didn't say a single word during the whole conversation between Naruto and Drake as she was only studying her mate's facial expressions. Which she can only think that either her mate was in deep thinking or having a conversation with someone, and judging by her mate's facial reaction, she concluded that her mate was having a conversation with someone. And someone she could only think was either Drake or her father-in-law Baka or Great Red. Kunu was completely clueless at current behavior of Naruto. She found it odd as she never saw Naruto acting like now Naruto was acting and tried to ask him, but stopped by Office. As she shook his face and connected Kunu mentally and directly spoke to her in her mind, "Let him give some time, Kunu-chan." Kunu's eyes widened as she forgot the ability of telepathy of Fist-chan. She looked at her and found her who was now staring at her. She nodded at her direction and drifted off to sleep. "But Naruto?" When the conversation between his partner and him was over, he found Office was still looking at him with a small smile. "Office-chan?" asked Naruto with a confused expression that was completely written on his face. Hearing her mate voice, Office smile widened and leaned closer to Naruto's face and give a peek on his cheek, making him blushed. "Office-chan," said Naruto, blushing badly. If last time he called her with a confusing manner, then this with embracing blush on his face. Office just giggled at her mate reaction as she found him cute. Normally, no one saw Office giggle before, let alone even emotion on her face. To them she is just an emotionless dragon god. But she did have emotion back then, even if it was hidden somewhere inside of her, that awakened after her fateful meeting with her destined mate. "You seemed realized what am I trying to say?" asked Office, but Naruto could easily identify it wasn't a question, it's a statement. He nodded and spoke, "What am I going to do without you, Haim?" As he finished his comments, he smirked and leaned closer to Office and give her a peek on her cheek before she could reply, making her blush this time, and his smirk only widened as he saw the red blush appeared on her face. "Anyway, thanks for the talk, Office Haim," Naruto said and wrapped his around Office, who snuggled closer to Naruto and enjoying the warmth her mate body realizing. Naruto chuckled at her behavior and turned his head other direction to look to Kunu who already fallen asleep. "My," Naruto mumbled Office and drifted off to sleep. Meanwhile in Underworld. "Uzumaki? Did you just say Uzumaki?" exclaimed Surziches. To say Surziches was staggered would be an understatement, he never lost his cool during any serious discussion, but this was something else. This is the first time Sona was seeing the Crimson Satan acting like a schoolboy who was just told that today is a surprise rest. She looked at her One-sama and found she was acting like usual. "Geez, One-sama. We are discussing about marriage at least, now you can act seriously," thought Sona in her mind and signed. The outburst of Surziches greatly surprised Riaz. Riaz may see her Oni-sama acting like a child, but she never saw her Oni-sama lost his calm nature in the middle of important talk. This is the first time she was seeing her Oni-sama losing his cool. Even when her own marriage agreement came to light, it wasn't shocking for him like he already knew about it. She didn't know about this Uzumaki character and what they did to make her Oni-sama to lose his patient. All Riaz could say that they aren't from 72 pillars of the underworld. She didn't learn anything outside that underworld, and the rating game. To her, learning about that didn't consider underworld is complete waste of time. Riaz has only one dream. To become the champion of the rating game, and to become one underworld's knowledge is enough, so why wasting time and focusing that didn't consider underworld, more importantly the rating game. After all, angels, fallen angels, dragons, yakes, etc. other supernatural races didn't have any peerage. So why wasting her time to learn about them? Lord and Lady Citri stared at Crimson Satan. After all, it's been really a while when they were seeing Surziches lost his cool. Lord Citri merely raised an eyebrow and spoke, "Yes, I did, what of it?" Surziches, who already lost his cool, now give a look like he has just seen a ghost, in his case, God, when he heard Lord Citri reply. Somehow Surziches calmed himself before he spoke. "Uzumaki aren't devils, and by seeing low number of purebloods, I can only suggest." Before Surziches could finish, Lady Citri interrupted him and spoke, "Suggest? Contracts were already made. And even if it isn't, my both daughters like Naruto," said Lady Citri in a very sweet dark tone that promised pain, lots of pain if her daughter's love declined, sending a chilling down in his spine. Surziches could feel a shiver down in his spine and getting himself nervous in front of a mother of two daughters. But he composed himself and tried to change her decision. After all, he is Lucifer, his decision is what matters. "Boo, but P pure," nervously started Surziches to explain his reasons, only to cut off by Seraphol no less. Pureblood, but aren't the mass are allowed to marry anyone?" asked Seraphol playfully, but inside of her, there was a rage building that no one noticed except Lady Citri. Surziches knew there was no way to stop Seraphol, but what about Sona? So he said what he shouldn't, but what about Sona? She is the heiress of. But before Surziches could finish, the entire room filled with huge amount of killing intent, and it didn't stop. Every second it was growing and growing, but it was solely directed toward Surziches, but other in the room could feel the pressure of her demonic killing amount. Our clan and clan head have the power to decide where any member of clan could marry or not. Even Mayu couldn't interfere with it," said Lady Citri spoke, making Surziches shiver at her cold tone. It was widely known by entire underworld that Lady Citri loved her family dearly. If someone threatened her family, let's just say there was hell to pay. Even in Devil Civil War, she took down 2 battalion of high-class devils who sent to assassinate Seraphol. That day, Underworld saw the fury of a mother, not just a mother of current Leviathan. Even in Devil Society, that day was remembered as a worth of a mother. Anyone who remembered that day, never, absolutely never pissed her off. And the tone he heard just now from her, the look on her face kinda reminded him of that day. Seeing her wife behavior, Lord Sitri took a step away from her wife. Sona, herself first time was witnessing her mother cold behavior. She heard about her mother's worth many times, either from her family or from books. Ria's was at its worst, she never thought someone could make her Ani-sama nervous, let alone shivered. Granted, there are lots of stronger being in the existence that could surpass her Ani-sama, but in the underworld her Ani-sama is the Lucifer, so he is the strongest, so why her Ani-sama is nervous? Seraphil was completely lost in her thoughts, completely missing her beloved mother change in behavior. When she heard Surziches tried to interfere her sister, her beloved baby sister marriage, by giving a poor excuse of purity of blood, she was mad, so mad, no. She is furious. Soon the entire room filled with tremendous amount demonic power, it was so intense that the ground began to shake and the temperature dropped as ice began to form in all the windows around the castle. And if look outside the window, you'll find the sky was completely darkened, ice is now covering the trees with a layer of it. This power. Thought all the young devils, Sona and Riaz, trembling in fear. Even Lord Sitri stunned at the power her older daughter realizing. He knew her older daughter wasn't as strong as a super devil, though she is the strongest woman in the underworld, but still she wasn't a super devil, and that was something unnerved her daughter, so secretly she started to train herself more and more. And now he can clearly see the growth in her daughter power. The power she was putting out was something they never thought would be possible. The power was so intense that it snapped out Lady Sitri as she looked at her daughter's face. All she could see was the two large bangs were covering her daughter's face, making her worry at her daughter's stare. She has gotten stronger. Thought Surziches as sweat began to form in his brow. He knew that Seraphil was powerful, but this power could match a super-class devil, more importantly him. What exactly do you mean, Surziches? Seraphil asked in very low tone, making a shiver down in his spine. He began to sweating uncontrollably. Seraphil, I mean it's on his future after all. Surziches tried to change the subject, but little did he know. Hearing his poor excuse, Seraphil calmed down. After all, she was making her baby sister nervous too, which she would like to avoid as much as possible. She was completely fine with the contract, Surziches answered Seraphil in very calm and serious tone, remembering him why was she chosen as Leviathan, not to mention carrying the title of strongest woman in underworld. Riaz had enough. She didn't know about this Uzumaki. And why her Ani-sama so reluctant towards them. What's so important about this Uzumaki? I bet they aren't as worthy as Gremory or even any other underworld pillars, said Riaz arrogantly with a smug smile. Lord and Lady Sitri stared at her with a look that clearly mean how in the she become Harris, while Seraphil eyed her as she didn't exist in the room. Sona only rolled her eyes at her friend comment, she won't be surprised in future if Riaz says her Ani-sama defeated Office, heck she even know who his office may be in future, but no. Surzich's face was now full of embracement, he was missing the company of his queen, Grafia. She has a knack for saving him from being embraced. But he can't let her baby sister speak more, as her baby sister is also the heiress of Gremory clan, so she was representing Gremory also, more like embracing. So he decided to stop her before she embraced more. Riatan, I'll tell you when we get back, all I can tell you now is the very powerful important two more than Gremory, said Surzich's last part reluctantly, getting a disbelief eyes from her baby sister, whose eyes were now the same size of soccer, as she still believe her house is the greatest, even greater than original Lucifer, after all her father is current Lucifer. Means he surpassed original Lucifer, little did she know. Anyway, Lord Sitri. Now Underworld has an alliance with Uzumaki, right? Asked Surziches hopefully. Lord Sitri looked at him with a narrowed eyes before replying, no, it's clan alliance and businesses, Lord Lucifer. Surziches blinked and spoke, but an alliance with Uzumaki will greatly improve. Underworld, we know, finished Lord Sitri. Surziches looked at him without any emotion or emotionless face and spoke, so. They aren't interested in politics. Simply stated Lord Sitri, that was completely lie, everyone know except for a certain red-haired girl. Lady Sitri, Seraphil and Sona inwardly chuckled at her husband father's unique way to handle the things. While, on the other hand, Surziches didn't like the way conversation going. But he couldn't say anything to counter. He sighed, knowing he couldn't say anything to have Uzumaki to form alliance with Underworld instead of just Sitri clan. Since Uzumaki have different types of alliance and close relationship with other powerful races. And with Sitri having a close alliance Uzumaki which marriage, no doubt their influence will surpass the Gremory in the near future. Besides, my father, former head of our clan, promised in marriage alliance between Sitri and Uzumaki, informed Lord Sitri as a matter of fact, catching everyone's attention. Oh dear, now I remember, thought aloud Lady Sitri. Seraphil smirked as now she remembered her grandfather promised to Uzumaki, which she loved to fulfill. Sona merely titled her head as had no clue about what promise her parents and Wani-sama were talking about, but by judging the smirk on her Wani-sama, she could clearly say it'll be good news. Marriage promise? Asked Surziches, still didn't sure if was it a good thing to ask as anything he said today was backfiring at him. Yes, Lord Lucifer, Lord Uzumaki saved my father's life back then, and my father promised in marriage alliance between Citri clans and Uzumaki, which was still in uphold, replied Lord Citri with an amused smile, getting in stunned face of Surziches. While Sun's and Ria's eyes widened. So it's arranged marriage then? Said Ria's with a smug smile. Lord and Lady Citri frowned at her comment but ignored like everyone did. So that's why you don't have any problem with the marriage and agreed immediately, stated Sona with a calculating look. It's more of a question than a statement or comment. One of the reasons, Sona-chan, replied Lady Citri said softly. Her answer raises another question in Sona's head and she didn't wait for another moment before asking it. One of the reason. Lord Citri didn't reply, he simply walked to her and gently put his hand on her and patted head and spoke. Yes, one of the reasons, So-chan, if you say no to marriage, there will be no marriage. So-chan, remember So-chan, if we ever talk about it. Ever trying to put your Serful in any marriage contract agreement? No. Absolutely no. Sona. Paused Lord Citri and looked toward ceiling and remember the time when his both daughters born, when he hold his daughter for the first time and a warm smile spread on his face, and he continued, when I hold you and Serafel for the first time in my arms, just after you both were born, I promised myself I'll become the best father in the entire supernatural world. I won't do anything that could harm any of you or take away the smile from your faces, you both are too precious to me. Before he could finish, Sona tackled him in a tight embrace. And if you could her face, you can simply say there are tears running down from her eyes. Serafel smiled warmly, but the words that came from her father made her eyes watery too. Even Lady Citri eyes watered at her husband's statement. There was one thing she loves her husband about is, like her, he also loves his family dearly. Sona broke the embrace and looked at her father with a loving gaze before she spoke, Arigato, to Sama. It's mean a lot for me. In reply, Lord Citri didn't say anything, he just leaned towards her and gave a parental kiss on her forehead. Riaz was looking at the scene between a father and a daughter and couldn't help but feel jealous. Why didn't her father could say thing to her? Why did her father agree to the marriage contract between her and that person? It's so unfair. Sona, without knowing, fell for the guy whom her parents wanted her marry. Why didn't same thing happen to her? Thought Riaz as she gritted her teeth. Lady Citri was watching the interaction between her husband and daughter and then smirked before she spoke. Besides, I heard So-chan loves to cuddle my dear future son-in-law while sleeping. Isn't it, Sarah-chan? Her statement caused many type of reaction. Surziches and Lord Citri had a shocked face full of disbelief. While Riaz was looking at Sona like she didn't know who is she now. Sona face color now could put Ria's hair in shame. Serafel giggled and replied, hi, Kasama, just wait few years. You will have lots of grandkids. Sona couldn't take her mother and sister teasing as she and I'm tears running down from eyes and she exclaimed, Kasama. Wani-sama. Lady Citri and Serafel giggled at her younger daughter's sister embracement. Lord Citri never expected this from Sona as he used to know his younger daughter was shy. But this girl, his daughter Sona, did something so bold not even his older daughter Serafel did before. Actually, Serafel never showed interest towards any male in her entire life, making both him and his wife worry for her, Serafel, future. And now his both daughters were clearly showing interest, or he should say deep affection towards a boy. What did just his future son-in-law do to his daughters that not just he gained a liking towards him from both of his daughters, also his both daughters simply agreed to marry him when he was just suggesting. And his daughters accepted it like they are simply accepting oxygen for breathing. Lord Citri vowed at that moment as soon as this meeting will over, he was going to pay a visit to his future son-in-law, maybe they will have a relationship like a father and a son. He just might find a son in his future son-in-law. Lord Citri always wanted a son, as having a son will surely remind him of his father and his relationship. A father and son relationship. But that doesn't mean he doesn't love his daughters. No. He completely adored them. But that also didn't mean he wanted a son too. Maybe he will just find a son. Surziches somehow managed to change back to his leader emotionless mask, but his face still has a tiny amount of surprise. Surprised that sons will do something like that. If he was told that it was Serafel, then he will accept it like fish in water. But Sona. No, she was completely opposite in nature of Serafel when it comes to show affection. Riaz, one thing she could probably say, this girl isn't Sona. And even if she was completely acting the way no one ever could imagine. Riaz could probably say even Sona's parents have a very hard time to believing the way Sona's acting. How about dinner, Surziches-san? Asked Lady Citri with an amused smile as she looked the faces of her guest. Surziches tried to deny it, but before he could open his mouth, his own little sister best beat him into it. Yes. Dinner, said Riaz cheerfully, completely changing her previous behavior. Surziches sighed as he looked at his little sister. His little sister may be a clan heiress, but she has a lot to learn, a lot. Sona just rolled her eyes at her former best friend antics. She just refused to act like a clan heiress when it comes to food, anime and manga. Lord and Lady Citri merely show a small smile, while Serafol ignored her existence at all. Back to Naruto. Naruto was having a very hard time to not vaporize Drake-chan. If he thought before Tia-chan was a tease. Damn. Drake was proving her mere child in the field of teasing. So both sister ... huh. So kinky teased Drake with a knowing smirk that what his words gonna affect his host. Sisters? Kinky. Said another voice, catching both of them off guard as they completely forgot there was one more presence that could easily enter in Naruto mindscape, after all Naruto permitted it to. Both dragons turned around, only to find Great Red in his full glory. But there was something different about him that was clearly visible. He maybe kill anyone just because of that anyone was annoying him, but when he enter his baby dragon god, he will always calm, more importantly cheerful. But right now he was no claimer. His eyes glowing, shining dangerously at Drake. What exactly do you mean by those words? Drake. Growled Great Red at Drake, who looked like he will be anywhere but here. And this time to Naruto to smirk, knowing full well that his dad will never angry at him. And it's his time to enjoy Drake's misfortune. Drake gulped nervously as already sweating bullet. He should have known better before using those words, let alone in Great Red presence, even if he didn't know Great Red was here at first place. He knew Great Red is very protective, and when it comes to his only son, there is no limit. Well, you see, Drake started to explain the entire story in great details, as he don't want to miss single thing. As he finished, Great Red was looking at his son, then him, and then again his son before turning into his human form, and he slowly walked to his baby dragon god, who was looking at his dad curiously at what his dad gonna say to him. Is he mad, or what if he disappointed his dad, were the thoughts running in Naruto's mind. Much to Naruto's surprise, Great Red simply walked to him and stared at him with loving and caring gaze that only a parent will show to his or her child, and asked, my precious baby, are you okay? As soon as Naruto registered his dad's question, he threw himself in his dad's arms. Great Red didn't waste a single second before evolving in a hug. I am scared, Dad, said Naruto, and then looked at his dad's face and spoke again. I don't know how to treat them. I don't know if I treat them the way they deserved. I don't know if I'm the right guy for them. If before he could speak more, Great Red simply put his index finger on his son's lips, completely silencing him. Hush, my little dragon god, there is no need to scared in first place, and about the right guy for them you asked, said Great Red. Naruto simply nodded at his father's question. To which his father just smiled warmly before continuing, let them decide if they wanted to be with you or not. And when a girl wanted to be with you, it's your responsibility to take care of her. Make sure she knows that she was someone important to you and treat her the way she deserved. Can I expect this from you, my little dragon god? Asked Great Red last part in very loving manner. Naruto nodded happily and spoke, hi. Dad, you can count on me. Great Red didn't finish yet and spoke again, listen as your Jiji said, leave it to time. Naruto simply nodded at his dad, words his dad really knows what and how to tell him to cheer him up. Greg simply looking at the scene with a stunned face. Never ever he thought Great Red as a caring, loving parent, let alone seeing it with his own eyes. The very being name that strike fear into his enemies, doesn't matter if they are dragon, gods, angels, fallen angels, devil, demigod, or other supernatural species. The name Great Red. The Apocalypse Dragon, or the true Red Dragon God Emperor, true dragon. A true dragon is reduced to a loving parent, simply made Drake speechless. Now he have to extra careful around Naruto, knowing how overprotective his dad is. How troublesome, muttered Drake. The mutter didn't go unheard by Great Red as he looked back at Drake and spoke, Drake-chan, after Naruto get back to real world, we are going to have a little chat about the words you were using in my son's presence. Drake went completely deathly pale as he thought about the chat with Great Red about his own words. He was 100% sure that Great Red already forgot about it, but no. He has to open his damned mouth, muttered something that only reminded Great Red about previous little incidents. Now he is screwed. Underworld. Citri territory. Riaz and Surziches were having the dinner at Citri house. Riaz didn't understand why her Ani Sama wanted to return home as soon as possible, even if it's mean skipping the dinner at Citri house. After all, Citri clan offer the best food in entire underworld, and dozens of Citri restaurants around the underworld were the living proof of it. Surziches wanted to return home as he didn't want Riaz to embrace Gremory clan anymore. He didn't know what will happen if any council's elders were present at the moment when she opened her mouth and clearly told them about her own view about Uzumaki. She is the clan heiress, so anything she'll say is regarded as the entire clan view. Serafal and Sona were talking to each other, completely ignoring them. To them, finding a good birthday present for their Naruto is more important thing to do. Lady Citri was looking at both of her daughters with an amused smile. She never saw her thought she will live a day where her both daughters will talk about a boy, more importantly the same boy. She is eager to meet her future son-in-law, and judging by the look of her husband's face, she could easily say that her husband is eager too, if not more than her. She looked at the dinner table and saw both redhead were having the dinner, one with dinner manners, and another one with like if she waste another second without eating it, it will despair. A sly smile formed on her face as she spoke. How's the dinner? Surziches-san. Rias-chan. Surziches looked at her and spoke, as always expect from Citri Claw. Before he could finish his sentence, Rias cut him in middle as she spoke with enthusiasm. It's delicious, Lady Citri. Citri's food always best. Lady Citri giggled at younger Gremory enthusiasm and looked at her daughters, more especially her younger daughter, who was still talking with her one Isama. And a mischievous smile formed on her face as she looked back at dinner table and spoke. Thank you, Surziches-san. Rias-chan, that's mean a lot. Considering it is Sona who cooked the food today. Both Surziches and Ria's eyes widened at Lady Citri's statement. Surziches dropped his fork at his dinner table. It's like when he was first told about the marriage agreement between Gremory and Phoenix clan. Ria stopped eating and looked at her best friend who was still talking with Serafal, then looked back at her dinner plate and muttered, I am possible. Lady Citri heard Ria's muttered loud and clearly, but instead of showing anger, she giggled and spoke. It's quite understanding. I also have a hard time to believe when I was told. But I assure you, it is Sona-chan who cooked the dinner. It's basically she wanted to celebrate ... as today is a special day for her, well, not just for her. Us too. Sona and Serafal were listening the conversation with great interest. When they both caught Ria's muttering something impossible that caught both of Citri's sisters' ears. And they started to listen the conversation. And seeing the expression on Ria's face, Sona could easily say she was quite amused, but she won't tell, after all she is clan heiress. Ria's was having a hard time to believe this. Her best friend can cook, not just cook the taste of the food, clearly screaming that it was par with the best cook in entire underworld, and her best friend cooked it just to celebrate her engagement. She, Sona, celebrated her engagement while she, Rias, didn't nothing to celebrate her. And why would she? She didn't want to marry at first place. But still she missed the little but happy moment of marriage ceremony, even if it's mean to celebrate the engagement confirmation. And knowing who is going to her husband, she didn't want to do anything with her own marriage. But last time when I was here ... I didn't notice Sona's taking any cookery classes. Asked Amanda Road as she looked at her best friend, who was now looking at her with a smile. Because I didn't take one that time, simply stated Sona. But then how, asked question Rias as she clearly could say now her best friend is better than her. First, the amount of demonic energy she released back then and how calm, controlled, matured and same time cheerful Sona is. I asked my mother-in-law, future mother-in-law, to taught me how to cook Naruto's favorite dishes, said Sona with a smile, as she reminded herself how her future mother-in-law taught her. But why did you learn how to cook just because of him? Said Rias with a half anger in her voice. Sona just looked at her like she was seeing something she shouldn't. Didn't know how to respond, she just asked any confused person to excuse me. You heard me. There are lots of chiefs, are there? Surely they can cook, so why? Asked Rias once again. This time her question was clear and to the point. She didn't know why she have to learn how to cook when they have family chiefs. It's completely absurd, isn't it? Because I wanted to, as simple as that, paused Sona as she looked at her friend, then spoke again. Sure, you wanted to do something especially for your fiancé to show how much he meant to you, finished Sona, getting a wide-eyed Rias. As she couldn't believe what her friend was suggesting, to do something special for her fiancé. No, she didn't want to do anything for her fiancé, if anything then break up the whole marriage contract that was set up before even she born. And here she was realizing what she was missing. What it feels like to have a fiancé of her own choice. How her own parents robbed her from taking most important decision of her own life. Back to Naruto. Naruto was training hand-to-hand combat with Drake and his dad's watching. It always amused Great Reddit how Drake have the hard time match up with his little baby. Drake surely catch him if Naruto isn't the fast he is. And Drake knew when it comes to hand-to-hand combat Naruto is a monster. He also started to learn how to fight with swords after he got that sword from his godfather as a birthday present. And as a kendo player, he sure has some experience with it. Okay. That's enough for today, said Great Red as he saw if he allowed to continue their practice, they aren't going to stop anytime sooner. Yes, Dad, said Naruto as he stopped his daily practice season with Drake-chan. Naruto, my little dragon god ... why don't you use your balance breaker form? Asked Great Red as he saw very little when his son was using balance breaker, much to his surprise. Naruto titled his head at his dad question before replying, "You see dad, balance breaker just boosts everything 300 times, expect the weakness of the host in base form, not to mention also adding the dragon scale armor, also known as scale mail." Great Red easily understood what her precious son wanted to tell him and spoke, "And since you are a dragon god, you don't need to use Drag-chan dragon scale, and as for boost, you wanted to work on your base form so you could boost your balance breaker form whenever you will use it." "Correct as always dad, I wanted to master everything from my base level. And if possible also wanted to improve my base level," state Naruto. "Working on base form and trying to master it so you can improve it, that's a nice way to put it. My little dragon god," said Great Red with a proud smile as he heard his son saying that he wanted to improve his base form. "Thanks dad," replied Naruto happily as his dad approved and appreciated his way to become strong. "So do you know how to improve it? Or you are going to push yourself without any limit?" asked Great Red, showing he has great interest in whatever his son was doing to become strong. "Yes dad. You see my reflex, speed, strength are almost better than 10 times from the first day. And I'm trying to use Senjutsu with it, more importantly trying to mix nature energy with it," said Naruto. "That will do. Using nature energy, you can simply mix it with your own energy that will save lots of your energy, all you need is stamina, and just being a dragon you have infinity amount of stamina," replied Great Red, clearly impressed the way his son thinking is. "Thanks dad," said Naruto once again as his dad praised him. "Tell me son, did you ever hear about Kai manipulation?" asked Great Red, getting a wide-eyed drag as he thought it's only a myth. He never encounters someone who can manipulate Kai. He maybe heard about it and like everyone, he forgets it, thinking it's just a myth. Now here he was, hearing it from the mouth of Dragon himself about the legendary Kai manipulation. Naruto just idled his head as he never heard that manipulation before. So he asked, "No father, I didn't." This time Drake didn't want to remain silent, so even he asked, "Are you meaning to tell me that legendary Kai manipulation isn't just a myth and it exists before?" Great Red has an amused smile, seeing the Welsh dragon's shocked face. "Naruto, it's called breath of life. In simple words, it is ability to manipulate the flow of latent energy that is present in the physical body, and Drake-chan its do exists as I can easily manipulate Kai," replied Great Red, getting a shocked look from Welsh Dragon, as he never thought he will encounter someone who can manipulate Kai. Naruto was partially bouncing in excitement to learn something new and more importantly directly from his father. "But first, I think you should master using Senjutsu with your base form, then we will start with Kai manipulation," state Great Red. He can only think what his son will do when he one day could use enmity and Kai at the same time. Strength of body, when combined with strength of mind and spirit, can move mountains. Alone however, the body shatters against rock like a brittle twig. "We are taking about that Kai right?" asked Drake once again to confirm it. After all, it's Kai manipulation and little did he heard about it, it only said that that technique exists before the biblical god. "Yes, we are talking about that Kai manipulation and about the Kai's effect on the user body. I don't think it will affect Naruto after all, he is a dragon god," explained Great Red. Sugoi dad cheered Naruto when his dad told them that there will be no side effects of manipulating Kai on his body. "Anyway, aren't you going to teach me swords arts after my birthday dad?" asked Naruto as he clearly remember his dad instructed him to finish basic sword skill so he could teach him advanced sword skill that includes forgotten swords arts, and he was quite interested to learn that, so he promised his dad he will finish all basic before his next birthday. "Are you finish your basic skill, son?" asked Great Red, knowing full well that his son will finish entire basic skill before his birthday. "Yes. He already finished his basic with swords and even learning some high level from his grandfather. His grandfather was teaching him Uzumaki swords, style," stated Drake. "Underworld. Citri territory. So let me get straight, you learn how to cook just because you wanted to do something for your fiancé?" asked Riaz, with a look of full disbelief. "Yes Riaz, you caught easily, I'm sure you did something for Rizer, isn't it? After all he is your fiancé," asked Sona with an innocent smile. Getting a red face, Sona, has to remind her, Riaz, that she is engaged to Rizer. How many times she has to forget about him. She will just ask his Ani-sama to cancel the arrangements, and he will do, after all he is her Ani-sama. And doing something special for Rizer? Sure. If throwing the food at his face, sure she did it. With Max was having a hard time as he forgot something special, and he didn't quite remember what is it. Laying on his back next to his wife, remember what was happened throughout the entire day. His grandson got engaged. Oh shoot. He forgot to tell his own wife about their grandson engagement confirmation. He turned his head and looked at his wife. He knew his wife will skin him alive when he gonna tell her, but he have to tell her now or sometime later, and it's better if he already told her about it already, otherwise God knows what his wife will do to him. Just thinking about it giving him chill. "Nah, Luna-chan," said Max, hoping to start a conversation with his wife. "Huh? Just sleep, Max, mumbled Luna in half sleep half awake. You know our grandson got engaged today, said Max, happily dropping the bomb with a smile, but inwardly he was sweating, didn't know what his wife will do to him. Huh? Naruto, engaged, okay. Mumbled Luna before her eyes wide awake and turned around and face her husband and asked in very low sweat tone, explain. Max. Uzumaki that promised pain, lots of pain if he failed to answer or something she didn't like to hear. Max gulped and started explaining the whole story. With Naruto. Naruto was talking about how Drake used his own dragonic energy and how to boost it when he suddenly felt a huge concern about his grandfather. Drake noticed the change of expression of his host and asked, are you okay, partner? Naruto looked at Drake before sighed and spoke, I think Gigi did something stupid again. Maybe did something to piss your botchan, replied Drake, only Max knows how right he is. Maybe, mumbled Naruto. Anyway. Forget it and listen, Drake started giving a new theory lesson to his host. With Max. So it's Itri sisters, huh? Said Luna with a smile, surprising Max that she didn't angry at him. Wait. You aren't angry, asked Max, to confirm her. Angry, yes I'm, but didn't expect Citri to go first. I always thought it will be Kunu who will be engaged to Naruto first, replied Luna. Me too. Maybe they will be next. After all, my grandson making a harem for himself, said Max, getting a smack snack on his head ID. Anyway. My little sister's granddaughter is coming tomorrow, remember? Asked Luna as she remembered her little sister's granddaughter. She has seen her once when she was 6 months old. So she was quite sure her little sister's granddaughter wouldn't remember her. And now she will almost the same age as Naruto. When Naruto came to Kyoto, she didn't think about her grandson Will that many friends, so when he came to Kyoto, she invited her little sister's granddaughter for the summer, to which her little sister agreed before giving a single thought. And now her grandson made so many friends, she only hoped they will get along. Yes, what was her name again? Something. Mumbled, asked Max. It says Deeth, dear, state Luna and looked at her husband before spoke again. Sleep, we will discuss your whole situation tomorrow, said Luna before drifting off to sleep. Max sighed as the whole conversation went smoothly before following his wife's example and drifted off to sleep. I hope you guys love this what if. If you guys have any recommendations regarding the topic for the next video, then please share in the comment box. Share your unique, romantic, adventure or action, what if titles. Let's see how creative you are. And then I will choose 2 topics among them, after we will do a poll. The topic which will get the highest vote, it will be uploaded.